Okay, so this is a little impromptu video here, going out to my buddy Nick, or Smoochie, whichever you want me to call you. But you were talking about your roundhouse kick, and we got to discussing that, looked at that video. I'll show you a couple little things that are relating to that rotation we talked about. See if this gets the point across a little better than just talking about it. So basically, what I was talking about when I mentioned getting a pivot on that support leg or on that base leg, allowing that hip to open up is going to give you a little bit more range for that other hip to come across into a kick, right? So hopefully you can see just at the bottom of the frame. Right now, my right foot is parallel to the wall. It's pointing straight ahead. Now, if I want to throw a kick with my left foot, and of course that was your problem side, right, was your left, then I can get to the position a number of different ways, but eventually what I want to happen is for this foot to go from this position to this position. So now, you see it's pointing the other way. So I want this guy, for the most part, to be able to turn all the way around. Now, when you get to where you're relatively comfortable or relatively skilled at this, you can do this all in one pretty quick motion, and you're going to notice, hopefully, the pivot will look fairly clean. Here, right? Again, I can come up and just throw it. And if I put a kick on the end of that, it's going to look something like this. Boom. Right? Now, if you're not quite comfortable or controlled yet getting there, you just break it down into steps. So in this case, I can go ahead and get set there already. So this foot is already pointing back. And then just pick this knee up. I can even support it on the wall. For me, in my class, when I train, lots of times I do this without support. I've worked up to that. But you can just support yourself on the wall here. Point your knee, obviously, towards the basic direction of your target. And then when you straighten the knee out, it just comes right out. And so you can kind of teach your body, teach your nervous system how to get comfortable with being in this position. And that's really where a lot of the control, I think, comes from. It's basically getting your body into a position or to a point where it knows how to deal with the position you're asking it to go into. Put another way, I can think, oh, I got to get my foot up there and start throwing crazy kicks all the time. But if my body doesn't have good ownership, as I said earlier, I was talking about owning a position. If my body doesn't have good ownership of every position along the way, of every movement that I'm attempting to do, then I'm setting myself up for a number of problems. One, I probably won't have as much power in terms of my strike. Two, my balance is probably going to be compromised. And three, because I'm not orchestrating the motion as effectively and efficiently as I should, because I don't have that control, I'm probably setting myself up for injury as well. So those are three big reasons why you probably don't want to go getting too reckless. You were talking about focusing on those head-high kicks, and that's all well and good if you can do that in a clean way. So once again, if you can get your knee up high enough and you can pivot your hips right and you can get everything working in sync to where that works, great. So you can come up and throw it, right? But if you get up there and you find yourself having to turn over a whole lot, or you throw it and you stumble off, anything where you don't feel really secure, you probably need to back off, bring it back down, get it to a manageable level. So if you can go here, the pivot down in the base leg, I know you can't see it in the video here, but the pivot in the base leg happens. This comes out very clean. My knee's not coming too far across this way. And, you know, I'm keeping good balance. And for the most part, my body's upright enough to where I'm not falling over. Great. And, you know, then you just kind of test the waters and you find wherever that point is where you can't quite do it and back off a step from there, and that's where you kind of hang out for your training. Now, once again, I said that when you're working on that pivot of the hip, you can get there by just setting it up. So once again, I set up this right leg. I'll go ahead and switch to the other side just so I can rotate the tires here. So you pivot that base foot ahead of time. Then you can pick up the knee and get set. right? Nice and easy. And you can just practice your kicks from here. Also, you can practice keeping your hands up. You don't have as much dynamic, as much movement involved here. You're not spinning through it quite yet, so you can focus a little bit more on keeping the hand up, keeping your body a little bit more upright, and then eventually you can start trying to work that back into some of your, whenever you're kicking on the bag. Sorry, my screensaver popped up there. So that's, one way to do it. If you'd rather work on the pivot in a more dynamic way, that's fine. You can just do it without throwing the whole kick. Just come up and pivot. Again, come up and pivot. One more time. I'm coming up. Now I'm doing a taekwondo style kick, so I'm not coming around from the side quite as much. I'm coming more up the middle from looking at you here. Basically, my roundhouse kick is coming up like this, and then I pivot, something like here, right? And a lot of mixed martial arts schools, mixed martial arts gyms, if you're studying Muay Thai, a lot of different types of kickboxing, they tend to come more from the side, which is, something more like this. Kind of more of a slashing motion, almost swinging your leg like a baseball bat. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other. They're just different. They have advantages and disadvantages both. But typically, especially when I'm teaching people about pivoting, I find the taekwondo style works a little bit better for me, when I'm trying to explain the point. So again, I'm going to coming up the middle like this, and then at the top of it, I pivot my base leg here, right? So you can just practice that. So again, from the side, it'll look like this. Or I can do it with the other foot. Same thing. I'm coming up. And see, I'm against the wall too. So if you want to work that pivot, this is an interesting way to do it. I don't have a lot of space here, so if I swing my kicking leg too wide, I'll hit the wall. I can come up, pivot, and kick. Right? So that's another way to do it. You can set up the pivot ahead of time, pick up the leg and kick. You can pivot with a movement here. And eventually you can start integrating that all into one piece, so it'll look something like this coming through. And then you just raise it however you like. A big, big key, and I'm going to leave you with this. It's not about going super fast and flinging yourself into something. As I said before, control is key. Control is the currency you use to buy an increase in challenge, an increase in range of motion, an increase in speed, an increase in power, whatever it is. If you don't have control, you don't move on to the next level of challenge. And that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, but if you think about it and really break it down, and you look at it from a biomechanics and physiology standpoint, as I do because that's my background, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of good, intuitive sense. You wouldn't want to add another challenge if you already are challenged enough. Master what you're doing, then move to the next level. So that way you have a good stable foundation. All the basic elements of the technique are there, and then you just layer things on top. So I bring that up because I love, whenever I train people, whenever I teach people, to work on stability and strength. As in, if you can only kick here, fine. We're going to make that a rock solid kick. You kick somebody in the knee, I promise you, they're going to feel it. You do it the right way, and they're never going to walk right again. Hopefully you never have to, obviously. But I would much rather somebody have a strong, stable, controlled kick here, or here, or here, than a sloppy one all the way up here, right? So just make sure that you're aware of where your control is. And a great thing to work on, once you get that pivot down, is sort of an isometric thing. See if you can hold your kick out here. Notice I'm holding onto the wall here. It's not about showing off how good my balance is. In this case, this is a strengthening exercise. I can put my hand here, pick the knee up, start off just about waist high, hip high, go up kind of to chest, and if I'm feeling comfortable, I can pick that leg up a little bit more, make sure my pants give me enough room here, and then aim it a little higher and see if I can hold. Kind of lost my balance there, so see, I'm still working on this, but I can hold out and see if I can maintain that, right? And then I would obviously do it on the other side where I can post up. Notice my foot is pivoted. I'm still focusing on this hip position and foot position. So hopefully I can carry that over with some training and integrate that into my kick whenever I do the whole thing. But I can work on just holding here. This is a workout if you've never done it. And you probably have done things like this, right? Again, here, boom. So strengthen yourself in each position on the way up and see how that opens things up for you. And I'm sure other things are going to come up. You might have other questions, so just let me know either way. And I'm posting this publicly, so anybody else on my Facebook friends list or some people on YouTube, you know, you come across it, you see this, and you're interested, maybe you're in martial arts, or maybe you haven't done it yet, but you're thinking about it, you have some curious, you know, some questions or whatever, that's fine. Hit me up, comment on the video, send me a message, whatever. This is open for anybody out there. Primarily, like I said, for my buddy Nick, and I'm going to tag you on the Facebook post. But yeah, let me know what you think, give me any feedback, and if this works out well, maybe I'll do a few more of these. Thanks.